If I were to summarize Monster Party on the NES with a single word, it would be insanity. This is truly an insane game. It is completely bizarre because not only is it just sort of random in a lot of things that happen in this game, it's slipped by Nintendo's quite serious censorship policy of not showing stuff like religion or violence or gore or any of it, and there is just ridiculous amounts in this game. Like, it is just weird. Now, the story follows a young boy by the name of Mark. He's walking home with his trusty baseball bat when he sees a beautiful star that makes his eyes moist. I think you used the wrong adjective there, game, but, alright. This star turns out to be a demon by the name of Bert, who asks Mark to join him to go fight monsters using the power of a baseball bat. Yeah, he wants Mark to go all old school mafia, breaking kneecaps and stuff. And Nintendo allowed it. Yeah, it's quite a special game. Now you start off in this happy little area, moving left to right, fighting people with very glowing power auras, and legs without pants, and Nintendo allowed it. Until you get to this magical happy little cactus, when the game suddenly has a stroke and flips the script. And say it with me, Nintendo allowed it. Now suddenly the entire world is covered in skulls and blood and gore, and Nintendo allowed it. And now Mark must enter doors defeating various bosses to eventually gain a key to move on to the next world. Now it's a little bit more complex than that. Each level in this game is covered with doors that contain potentially bosses or other surprises, such as being completely empty. Yeah, I don't know. I think they ran out of ideas with some of them, and they're not random, so yeah, just half the rooms have nothing in them for some reason. Onion rings that attack you. Sure. This thing that's either a dinosaur or some kind of giant ant that apologizes for being dead. These zombies that, for the love of God, you cannot murder, and like they tell you, you have to watch them dance. Weird. This boss that begs you not to pick on them. And now my Xbox One just turned on, fantastic. And then proceeds to go all insane on you. Oh yeah, and the Grim Reaper, which welcomes you to hell. And Nintendo allowed it. This is a weird game, what can I say? The bosses seem to be kind of all over the place. Half of them are really goofy too, and yet other ones are like legitimately creepy. I mean, I get it, the first world kind of goes insane and then gets super creepy, but then after that, for the most part, it's pretty tame in terms of content. I mean, you run into like fish skeletons, okay, and like devils, and like flying ghosts and witches and stuff. Oh hey, walking around pants! Maybe that's why those naked legs were naked in the first level. Their pants became magical sentient beings. I don't know. This game is weird. Now, to combat all the different foes in this game, you have Mark's trusty baseball bat, once again, going all old school mafia on everything, which is actually quite effective. The main property of this bat is the fact that it can reflect any sort of projectile sent by both bosses and standard enemies. Now, the actual angle of reflection of these attacks is based on how close it is to you and a little bit of randomness, so actually using it to deflect attacks is a little awkward, but still quite manageable, making it quite an effective weapon. But Mark isn't in this alone. See, if he kills enough enemies, one of them might randomly drop a pill. Should Mark pop that pill, and again, Nintendo allowed it, but then again, given how many mushrooms Mario has consumed, I guess that's a fair trade-off? Anyway, should Mark consume said mysterious pill he finds on the ground, he'll transform into Bert and gain both the ability to fly and launch ranged attacks, at least for a little while. And this can help destroy a lot of bosses. Aforementioned Pumpkin, which begs you not to pick on him, really likes to just go completely crazy on you, so you either have to go in as Bert or like grind for health, which is definitely not a plus in terms of game design, but you know, it's a viable strategy if you need it. But Bert is definitely an easier way to power yourself up temporarily to take out pretty much every single enemy in this game. Seriously, Bert is OP. But that's pretty much the core gameplay. You enter doors, you hopefully run into a boss or whatever the hell is going on with these zombies. Eventually you get their drop, go through all the doors with events, eventually you get a key, which lets you leave the level. The level designs themselves are kinda lackluster. 70% of the levels are completely flat left to right affairs that don't really have very much variation, short of maybe falling in the water, which slows you down and hurts you a little bit. The other 30% of the levels, well, 2 of them are mazes, one of which is a teleporting maze, which is just as horrifyingly bad as that sounds, and one's a completely vertical level, which is also about as much fun as that sounds. Well, actually it's better than that because you can't fall all the way back to the start, but you can fall off each individual room and that sucks. Still, the level designs, they're pretty bland, but they're not necessarily bad. Except for that one teleporting maze, screw that level. And the mechanics overall work, although deflecting shots again is a little awkward. Everything else is just fine, short of maybe having to grind for health to fight bosses. But overall, gameplay-wise, it works, it's completely playable, and I think the sheer randomness of it makes it something worth keeping an eye on, for sure. Now, the overall presentation to Monster Party is actually really good. I mean, again, the whole game lulls you into a false sense of security before terrifying the ever-living crap out of you by having a seizure and making you wet your pants. And then it's basically completely non-horror, but that one moment, I'm sure made lots of kids jump back in the day, and again, Nintendo allowed it. But the bosses, well, in terms of combat are fairly simple, they are creative. From the Grim Reaper to a plant that hits on you for some reason, the aforementioned insane pumpkin monster, to a random punk rocker, and this insane kitty for some reason. Seriously, what is going on with this game? And the standard enemies are just as varied and random and weird, which is fantastic. The audio design for Monster Party is, well, it's pretty much completely forgettable, but it's unoffensive either, so it's just sort of there. Not bad, but not great, and because of the visual style, the presentation, and how this game just sort of likes to trick you with throwing random things that you'd never expect at you at the weirdest times, I think the presentation's pretty damn solid and creates an experience that's absolutely worth playing. Now, if you want a copy of Monster Party on the NES, it'll cost you $30, which seems high. I remember a few years ago you could probably get it for less than half of that, but I guess it's gotten like cult status or something? I genuinely don't know. I got this in a box with about 10 NES games for about $100, and, well, this is why I bought it, so about $10 for my copy, not bad. I certainly didn't buy the box for another copy of Mario Duck Hunt, or Back to the Future the video game, although getting a copy of Sunsoft's Batman and a physical copy of Bubble Bobble didn't hurt my feelings either. But this is definitely the crown jewel of this little pickup. And I gotta say, I have no idea how this game got past Nintendo's insane censorship. Like, seriously, it's just baffling. But that alone, I think, is a reason why you need to play it. I mean, sure, it's not the best platformer ever devised, but one of the most important things to me about video games is they provide you with a unique, interesting, and engaging experience. And this game, oh boy, is it an experience. Honestly, it might not be the best NES game I've ever played, but I think I'd put it in my top 5 favorites just because of how weird and out there it is, and how it always seems to just hit you out of nowhere with something random that you would never expect. Also, how did this get past Nintendo's censorship? Seriously!